In my hands, I have the Ignis D1 driver from Takomo. Highly anticipated driver. The irons were a huge success. They give you premium product at a discount price. Will the driver be any different? Let's dive into it. Now let's talk a little bit about Takomo if you've never heard of Takomo before. Takomo is a direct-to-consumer company. What does that mean? Well, let's say you head down the road to your local PGA Superstore, Dick's Sporting Goods, whoever offers golf clubs in your area. You will not find a new set of Takomo golf clubs at any of these companies. Why? Well, you can only buy Takomo through their website. And the reason for that is essentially they cut out the middleman, they sell it directly from you, and with that, they can sell you golf clubs at a cheaper value. And it's not like the clubs are cheaply made in any fashion. You are getting a highly premium product at a much cheaper price. Now, there's a little bit less customization that you can get from it, but they still offer you, regular flex, stiff, extra stiff, a couple different shaft options. But overall, I love this business model. I love companies like this who are offering you a premium golf club at a much cheaper value. Golf is expensive. We don't need to make it even more expensive. Companies like this, I think, are a breath of fresh air. Now, we talked about the company. How does this club perform? First off, I gotta dive into this head cover. This head cover is premium, man. I don't know how else to say it. I don't talk about head covers a whole lot, but you can tell this is a head cover that got a lot of care to it. It feels premium. It's that faux leather. I mean, this is a very nice head cover. I get it's simple. It's the black and white design, but overall, this is a nice head cover. Now let's talk about the driver, the specifications of it. Well, it's going to be like most drivers out there. This is a 460cc driver, carbon crown, titanium face. Honestly, nothing too groundbreaking about it, but there are a couple features that I really do like about this driver. First off, this offers you a 25-gram movable weight in the back of the club. So if you're wanting something that has more of a draw bias, you put the weight in the heel. Something that's neutral, keep it right in the middle. Or if you want a fade bias, you can put it in the toe. I'm a fan of when any type of driver offers a setting like this because I think everybody's swing is slightly different, and I love the fact that you can change a driver to your swing. Now, one thing I do not like about the adjustable weight, most adjustable weights are you put them in, you can slide them around, a lot easier to move around. Well, this one, if you want to adjust it, you have to completely take out the weight. Not a fan of that. I feel like it's too easy to lose the weight on that. I wish there was a way where you could essentially loosen it, it stays in the system, and you can slide it back and forth. I just feel like with this, it's going to be a little bit easier to lose. So that is a knock on my book. I love that you can adjust the weight, but I wish there was an easier way where you didn't have to fully take it out. Now, something that Takomo nailed when it came to this driver is the hosel. Well, what do I mean by the hosel? You have the option to adjust your driver, 2 degrees up, 2 degrees down. Pretty common for a lot of drivers out there. So what Takomo did with their hosel though, is they figure out a way where you can adjust it without adjusting the address of your grip and your shaft when you go to tee off. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you adjust some settings on your driver after you have already purchased it. Well, when you look down at your club now, your grip might be off-centered, your shaft will be off-centered, just the wording and everything else. To a lot of people, this won't bug, but people who have OCD or people who like things to look straight when they look down, this is an issue. Well, with this, let's say I want to go move this back to neutral. I put the driver head back on after I adjusted it, and when I go down to grip the club, my shaft, my grip, everything is lined up to how I want it to be. And I know it's something simple, but I can't believe no other manufacturer has figured this out. So A+ to Takomo for doing that. So this driver is $359. And when you compare it to other big names out there, obviously this is much cheaper. Instead of spending $500 to $600, you're spending $359. And part of that savings is you have the hazardous smoke line. You have the hazardous blue and you have the hazardous black. You can have regular stiff, extra stiff, and you can have your drivers in either 60-gram or 70-gram setting. I have the hazardous black, extra stiff, in a 70-gram setting. But that's where your shaft options end. There's no Mitsubishi, there's no Venters, there's none of those options. These are the only options you get with this. And honestly, it's fine. Hazardous makes a great shaft. Most people will be able to suffice with this. But that obviously is where a little bit of the savings come from. And not only that, another savings is you get this lambkin grip, and this is the only option you have. But let's talk about the looks of this driver too. I think this is a very solid looking driver. Simple as that. It's giving me almost vibes of if PXG and Ping combined together. And I mean no disrespect to that. I think both companies make very good looking drivers, and this, I think, is a very good looking driver. Couple issues that I found in some use with this is I felt like it scratched a little bit easy. I get it, golf clubs scratch, it's part of the game. But I felt like there were some simple scratches in the shinier part of the driver. But not only that, but in the grooves of the driver, I feel like the white is fading out a lot quicker than it should be. It's not going to affect the performance of the driver, but it is something cosmetically to talk about. Now let's talk about the performance of this driver. How does this driver perform? Well, it performs very good. But first off, let's talk about that sound. The sound on this driver is not good. It's very loud, it's very pingy. It actually does remind me a lot of the G425 Mac. Now, it's not a huge deal to some people, but when you're hitting in a simulator, man, this thing is loud. You almost need earphones when you are hitting this driver. But the overall performance, I gotta say, this driver was competing with anything else out there. So with this driver, making good contact with it, have it in a draw bias setting, I was getting about 277 yards carry, and I was getting about 295 yards total distance. I was getting about 2,300 to 2,500 backspin, kind of in that area is where I seemed like I was getting the most comfortable backspin. Now currently I'm rocking the Mizuno STG 220 driver. Now on average with that driver, I get about 275 yards carry, about 300 yards total. So overall, this driver stacked up to what I currently game. But not only did it hit good, I felt like I had good control over it, but I felt like it was very fast. Now, I like a little bit heavier head generally. I generally get about 109 to 110 miles an hour club head speed with my driver. I was getting anywhere from about 112 to 115 miles an hour with this thing. I could feel this thing explode. I mean, overall, this is a fast driver, and I have no problem saying that this driver performs every bit as good as any of the big name manufacturers out there. Now, with all that being said, with how well this club performs, I do think there is a big issue with this club, and I think it's getting a little bit too expensive. Takomo got so popular because their golf clubs performed every bit as good as anything else out there at a much better price. The 101s when they came out were $450 versus anything that you would go buy at your local golf club. You're looking at $1,100 to $1,400. You're talking more than half off for clubs that performed every bit as good, that had customizations that you could add to it. Well, this driver is $359, which yes, it's cheaper, but you're going to be spending $35 on shipping. So you're talking $394 for this driver to get to you. Now, a lot of people do buy stuff based off name brand. So you will have someone who will say, well, I'd rather go spend an extra $100 and go get something from TaylorMade, go get something from Cobra, go get something from Ping, Titleist, whoever. It's just getting too expensive at $394. And this isn't taking away anything from the product. I think the club is just getting a little bit too expensive right now. If you would have labeled this thing at $299, for instance, I think that would have been a much better selling point for this driver. Especially when you look at some of the bargains that are coming out now, like Kirkland Signature or PXG 0211. You can get those clubs for $200. In Kirkland's, yes, you don't have any customization to it, but with PXG, you do have customization. You do have an adjustable hosel. You do have different shafts that you can put into it. You have different degrees of drivers that you can get just like this. Where I understand Kirkland doesn't, but PXG does offer that for $160 less. So for $160 less, I still think PXG is the best value driver out there when it comes to new drivers. And like I said, I'm not trying to take away anything from the performance of this driver. If you hit this driver, you're going to fall in love with it. I do think it's a great bargain compared to some of the big names out there. In my opinion, it did perform every bit as good as those drivers. And I do hope Takomo continues to rise. They continue to give us different driver options, you know, maybe a low spin model versus just the high speed DJI model that they offer right now. But I just don't think Takomo is there quite yet, and that is my biggest downfall with the driver, is I think it's just a little bit too expensive, especially when you start looking at used drivers. The used driver market is so huge right now. You can get so many good drivers out there for $150, $200 from TaylorMade, Titleist, Cobra, etc. And I think most people would probably prefer that route versus this. But that's my rant. I'm not trying to take away anything from Takomo. I think they are one of the best golf manufacturers out there right now in the game. So tell me, what do you guys think about this driver? Would you spend $359 for this driver? Do you think it's overpriced? Do you think it's underpriced? Let me know in the comments down below. But again, thanks for your support. Thanks for watching my video. I really do appreciate it. You guys have a great day.